There is a force in Egyptian mythology that is so powerful, so unpredictable, that even the gods feared it. A blazing eye born of the sun, capable of creating life with a single tear, and also of devastating the entire human population in a single night. The ancient Egyptians called this the Eye of Ra. But what was this? Was this a weapon? Was it a goddess? Or something far more ancient? Let's find out. In ancient Egypt, the word for eye was urt, and this didn't really refer to just the physical eye itself. This was a word that could be used for doing, acting, or intervening. And this was of course by no means coincidence, because the Eye of Ra was also considered a weapon of sorts. A wrathful avenger, if you will. The eye wasn't just a tool of the gods, it was alive. It was a sentient force that could love, rage, and even destroy. And often it did. The Eye of Ra wasn't one single goddess either. It was a powerful archetype, an aspect of the creator god Adam and the sun god Ra. These two would often be fused together and would be created into a single being called Adam Ra. Just like the word eye in Egyptian, which is actually a feminine word, the eye was embodied by goddesses, not gods. The eye could manifest through different goddesses. Sekhmet, which was a lioness-headed god, Hathor, which was the goddess of fertility, Bastet, who was similar to Sekhmet but more depicted as a cat rather than a lioness, and Tefnut, this was the goddess of moisture, among many others, and this depended on what Ra needed to manifest at the time. But when the gods called her forth, they unleashed something terrible. In artwork, the Eye of Ra was usually depicted as a red solar disk, sometimes encircled by a cobra, the Urios. This was a symbol considered to be the representation of divine kingship. This red disc would often sit atop the heads of goddesses who had merged with the eye. It was a crown, but it was also a warning. Depending on the myth, the Eye of Ra could either be linked to the sun, which this was the most likely scenario as Ra was the god of the sun, but again, depending on the myth, this could also be linked to the moon, to the morning star, so the planet Venus, and also to the full solar cycle. Just like light, she could illuminate or incinerate, and just like fire, she could warm, or she could also destroy. Oftentimes, people confuse the Eye of Ra with the Eye of Horus. These are actually two very separate things. The Eye of Horus actually represents healing and restoring. The Eye of Ra, on the contrary, represents the exact opposite. So, chaos, destruction, and just fury. This duality was actually key in how ancient Egyptians understood the balance between destruction and creation. And oftentimes, both forces were actually needed. And we'll be exploring just a few myths throughout this video in which the Eye of Ra was manifested. Before the world as we know it existed, there was only chaos. No sky, no earth, no time, just potential. From this void, the first god came to be. This was Ra. And I've actually explained this in a previous video of mine, link for that is down below, but it essentially went like this. There was this void, and from that emerged Ra, the first god. Ra then proceeded to create the first god and goddess. This was Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. But like rebellious teenagers, Tefnut and Shu wandered away and got lost. In my previous video, I actually explained how Ra sent a messenger in search for Shu and Tefnut, and I actually said that, well, don't ask me where this messenger came from. He must have created it. This was the almighty god of the Egyptian mythology after all. But this is actually a much more elegant explanation. Ra, in desperation, plucked one of his eyes and sent it into the void to search for Shu and Tefnut. Eventually, the eye succeeded and found Shu and Tefnut and brought them home. But when she came back, she was extremely shocked and disappointed. Ra had regrown the eye. The original eye, which was furious and betrayed at this point, lashed out. So Ra, in order to appease her, transformed her into the first Urios. This was the sacred cobra, and after this he placed her on his brow, crowning her with honor, but also binding her power to his own. But what happens when the most powerful being in the universe feels betrayed? There is a well-known Egyptian myth that humanity was actually created by the tears of the eye or by the tears of Ra. This has two versions. In one version, the eye was just so devastated and so sorrowful and desperate to find these children that she started weeping, and thus humanity was born. In another, much darker version, the eye was not crying because it was sad. It was crying because it was furious. I mean, imagine just returning home from your mission, having succeeded, only to find out that you've been replaced. So in this version, from that mixture of sadness and pain, humanity was born. So which version do you subscribe to? Tears of sadness or tears of rage? Let me know down in the comments. Either way, the message is pretty clear. Humanity was born from a goddess who knew love, but also knew fury, and that fury would return. In the earliest days, the gods still walked among mortals. Ra, as we've discussed before, reigned as the king of both gods and humans, but as time passed, even the sun god grew a little bit old. Seeing his age, humanity started to plot. So Ra, in an act of fury, summoned all the goddesses and he brought forth the eye. And this time, the eye was manifested as Sekhmet. This was the lioness goddess that we discussed before. And she was actually the embodiment of wrath and rage, so she just went completely savage on humanity. She did not just punish humanity, she completely slaughtered humanity. Blood ran like rivers. Villages disappeared in flames. No one could oppose her. And this wasn't just vengeance. This was sport at this point. Because Sekhmet, once she started killing, didn't really want to stop. At this point, Ra started having second thoughts and thought, oh, well, perhaps I actually went a little bit too far with this one. But at this point, Sekhmet was completely drunk on blood. The gods couldn't really hold her back with force, so they decided to trick her. They brewed 7,000 jars of beer and stained it with red ochre to make it look like blood. Ochre was a sort of pigment very commonly used in ancient Egypt. They poured the entire supply along the path that Sekhmet was supposed to be walking in. So when she arrived, she saw what she thought was a lake of blood, and she was thirsty. So she pretty much went on a drinking binge. She became so intoxicated that she passed off, and when she woke up actually feeling a little bit better. Which is funny because they usually tell us that drinking is not the solution. But that moment marked a turning point in Egyptian mythology. This was the last time that the Eye of Ra was fully unleashed on humanity. But that power never really went away. Even after Sekhmet went on her drinking binge and calmed down, the Eye remained as part of countless goddesses. And any of them could become the Eye again, if provoked, at any given point. And to the ancient Egyptians, the Eye of Ra wasn't really just a myth, it was very real. It was a part of their daily lives. It lived in the heat of the sun. It lived inside the glint of a cobra's hood, in the watchful gaze of a cat at midnight. It was both a protector and a destroyer, creation and annihilation. And if humanity strayed too far again, the Eye would return. So we better get our act together. That is, if we don't want to face the wrath of the gods. Thank you so much for joining me for today's tale. If you had fun, learned anything new throughout the video, please go ahead and drop a like, comment, share this video with someone else. It really makes the world of a difference. As I say in my previous videos, it's a very small button for you and a gigantic leap for my channel. Until the next tale, farewell, and may the gods smile upon you.